Senator James McGrath is the Shadow Special Minister of State and is in tropical North Queensland to look at some of the sites ahead of the Brisbane Olympics. Welcome to the program.
G'day.
I spoke with Graham Samuel, who is very, very cranky that your political party is closing the door on these environment laws. Why are you closing the door on doing a deal with the government?
We want to make sure that any proposal put forward by the government makes it easier for business to do their job, which is make money and employ Australians. And sadly, what we've seen so far of the proposals from the Labor Party actually will make it harder for business and harder for businesses to employ Australians. There's going to be more red tape. There's going to be more green tape, there's going to be more bureaucracy. So we want to make sure that we're on the side of business and those people who employ Australians. Now, we haven't seen the full legislation yet. We will sit down and go through it line by line, and we will come to a final decision on what we think is best for Australia.
But Graham Samuel says that the entire legislation has been designed on his report and that overwhelmingly it's positive for business. It cuts red tape. It makes things more streamlined. Isn't that a good thing?
Well, Graham Samuel might say that, but he may have seen the proposed legislation. We haven't seen the full proposed bill that's going to be put forward by the Labor Party and Minister Watt. When we see that, we will go through it line by line. It would be ill-judged of me as a member of the Shadow Cabinet to preempt or prejudge the final decision that my party will make. Shadow Minister Angie Bell is the person leading the negotiations and it's across the detail, but we actually need to see the full bill before we can make a final decision. And that decision will be based on what we think is best for Australia, not on what activists think is best for Australia. And, you know, and God bless Graham Samuel, he's a lovely guy, but not what he thinks is best for Australia. It's what we think. I'm speaking to you from Mackay. I spent last night in Rocky. We need to make sure that the people who live in these resource towns have jobs in the future. We need to make sure that the taxes that come in that help pay for the cities and the roads and infrastructure keep coming in. We will be on the side of Australians, and we're not going to apologise for that.
OK, but it's been 5 years and you and government were actually given this report and you did nothing. What do you think Australians are going to decide about your appetite for being part of constructive change if you block this?
Well, the Labor Party have been in power for almost 4 years.
Sure, it got delivered under the Morrison government, though.
But the former Minister Plebiscite sort of tried and failed in terms of the proposals that she was bringing forward. Now we've got Minister Watt, who's taking to with his approach. We need to see the full bill in detail, but we're not going to be rushed into making a decision, and any decision we take will be based on what we think is best for Australia in terms of cutting red tape and cutting green tape and making it easier for decisions to be made at the same time while making sure our environment has the correct protection that it needs.
At the same time, you've got this big party room meeting on Friday next week where you'll be looking at these issues of net zero and the climate issues. I mean, that's going on. You're debating net zero. You look like you are poised to oppose environment law reform. I remember the last election. I know you do. It was quite bruising. Aren't you just completely ignoring the messages of the election?
I know what we're doing is going through a process. And I realise sometimes people in Canberra, I know you're in Melbourne, but sometimes the chattering class in Canberra don't think process is important. It is. We did lose an election very poorly back in May. We need to make sure that our position on net zero and our position on the proposed bill that is going to be put forward by Minister Watt is a position that is in line with our values and our beliefs and what we think is best for Australia. And the meeting on Friday, it's a backbench policy committee. We have lots of those meetings. I know some people are getting terribly excited about it. They're not that exciting. They're just serious, earnest discussions where people talk about the different issues. And people shouldn't be surprised that there are different views in the coalition. We're a party that we are a broad church and we have a broad range of views. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, certainly political diversity and debate is important, but the debate around net zero is damaging, isn't it, to your overall brand?
Well, I think that the process is important, and the debate I don't think is damaging our brand. I think it's important that the party has these discussions about the direction that we go forward. We've lost 2 elections quite badly. I think we should look, for example, to successful administrations like David Crisafulli here in Queensland, like Adrian Schrinner, the Lord Mayor of Brisbane, and make sure that we have those policies that reflect our beliefs, reflect our values, and also reflect modern Australia. And it's important that we go through that process. And it's going to take some time before we have final policies. It's only been 3 or 4 months since we had that really bad election result. I think it would be quite odd if we came out today and announced a suite of policies across the board. I think it's important that we send a direction to Australians, as Susan Lee has tried to do over the past few weeks, that we do believe in lower taxes, that we do believe in cutting red tape, that we do believe in ensuring that we have a strong defence of Australia, putting forward those sort of headlands in terms of where our policies are going. I think that's the right thing to do.
I want to move to Barnaby Joyce's dance with One Nation. There still isn't a decision on that. But I remember a day when, you know, it would be sort of political poison for senior coalition people, someone like Barnaby Joyce is such a big name, to consider this. Just looking at history as well, how do you reflect on the fact that he's even thinking about this?
Well, it's a smarter and wiser man or woman than me who will reflect upon what Barnaby's thought process is or what he's up to. Barnaby's his own person. He has been a strong advocate for Queensland when he was a senator, and now for New England. I don't know what he's up to. That's up to Barnaby to answer for Barnaby.
OK, but yesterday I spoke with Tony Abbott, and he suggested that, you know, people should be very careful about dancing with right-wing parties that are not the coalition. Obviously, people like Barnaby Joyce feel dissatisfied with what the coalition has to offer. Why is that happening?
I actually generally think that that's a question for Barnaby. I'm someone who's a member of the Liberal National Party here in Queensland. I'm speaking to you from Mackay. This seat here, this state seat, was held by the Labor Party for 100 years, but a fella called Nigel Dalton won it at the last state election, which was a year ago tomorrow. We've got a government here in Queensland who are, you know, cutting taxes, who are building things and getting on with the job. I would encourage anyone who's on the centre-right, on the Conservative side of politics, to look at what the Crisafulli government are doing here in Queensland, and don't dance with right-wing populist parties, but come and join the Liberal National Party. We are a party of government, and we're at our best when we're in power, delivering for Australians, delivering for what is modern Australia and modern Queensland.
You are in tropical North Queensland, which you've said a few times, so let's go to that. I want to look at some of the issues that you're exploring. You're looking at some of the sites ahead of the Brisbane Olympics. What are you looking at?
Well, what I'm doing here as the Shadow Minister for the Olympics and the Paralympics is pushing the point that even though they're the Brisbane Olympics and Paralympics, actually they're going to be the Olympics for all of Queensland. So yesterday I was in Yeppoon and looking at where we can hold some training for the sailing ahead of the Olympics and the Paralympics. I also went to the Fitzroy River this morning in Rocky, where we're going to hold the rowing. You know, this is a place where Anthony Albanese wants to shift the rowing from Queensland to Penrith in New South Wales. This is a place where the local school kids do their rowing, but apparently, you know, some of the elites think it's not good enough for Olympic athletes. But we're going to prove to Canberra and prove to the world it's going to be a great place. Tomorrow, I'm heading to Airlie Beach to have more meetings there, because successful Olympics and Paralympics are not just about one city. They're about a whole region, about a whole state, and they're about getting people involved in sport, but it's also the legacy of buildings and making sure we have that infrastructure that the state government, working in conjunction with the local governments across Queensland, are trying to do.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'll see you in Parliament next week.
Thanks, PK.